welcome to another edition of the Here We Go podcast. This is a special edition. It is rivalry week. The Ratbirds are coming to town. What are you thinking, Colin? I mean, are you ready for this thing?
I'm beyond excited. There's nobody in this league that I like playing more than the Ravens. At the same time, there's nobody in this league I hate playing more than the Ravens because there's always a chance that the Antichrist finds a way to win. But yes, no, I love this game. I love beating this team. There's just nothing like it. So
I love it, man. You got to get fired up for this kind of a game as a fan.
Oh yeah.
I found it interesting. I was watching a video of the TJ Watt press conference from yesterday, and he was asked about, do you have to get the new guys or the young guys, a pep talk before coming into this game? And he's like, Mike T sets the table in every team meeting. So if you can't get fired up for this one, then something's wrong with you. Like, that is the perfect game.
For sure.
I loved it. So a little bit of rivalry history here. Let's dive into that before we get into this. So I'm going to ask you a quick question that's not on the agenda. Do you think this is the rivalry in all of the NFL right now? Like, is this the biggest rivalry in the NFL?
Yes.
So you and I have a pretty decent age gap between us. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this. So it was always kind of Cleveland for a long time, and obviously Baltimore's not even been a team forever, right? So how do you view the difference between the Cleveland and the Baltimore rivalry?
Yeah, I mean, since I've been alive, it feels like we've always dominated Cleveland. I was born the year Big Ben. Actually, Big Ben got drafted on the day I was born in 2004. So it's like, so since I've been alive, it's like Cleveland wasn't even something to worry about. We just kind of shoved it off, called it a win. Baltimore, it's always been the game that I've always been most excited for. That's probably why I hate them more than anything in this world, is because I'm so used to eking out wins versus Baltimore, dirty games, Baltimore beating us like in the wild card a few times or even in the regular season and whatnot. I guess since I've been alive, Cleveland's just kind of been like a brush-off game, and Baltimore's always been like a big, an absolute bloodbath. I mean, that's just how it is.
Yeah. It's funny because I felt that way too. As a fan, I've always liked the rivalries better when they're competitive, when it's close, when you're like, edge of your seat, nail biting type stuff. And Cleveland's just not been there in such a long time. That whole quarterback carousel, the coaching carousel, GM carousel. I mean, that organization just has no stability. Where Baltimore, honestly, I mean, they've really framed a lot of their organization around how Pittsburgh's built their organization over the years. So in a way, they're trying to model themselves after us. And it's interesting because now here the Steelers have dominated this rivalry lately. We've won 7 of the last 8. You still kind of feel like right now the Ravens have kind of been the class of the division, though. So let's talk about that. How do you separate what you see in the one-on-one matchups versus looking at the AFC North as a whole? How do you view that?
Yeah, I mean, the last game the last game that Baltimore beat us was it was 2022, Kenny Pickett's rookie year. He had to come out because Roquan Smith gave him a concussion, and then Mitch Trubisky comes in. We drive the field. He gets picked off by both Queen and Roquan. So I remember very vividly the last time we lost that game. It was a game we shouldn't have lost, but Mitch Trubisky kind of threw it away. I know Boswell missed a couple of field goals as well. It was just a brutal, awful game to lose. And then I think the last time Lamar himself actually beat us, it was either that game there, but I'm pretty sure. What?
It's your mic's coming through loud. Maybe just
oh, sorry. Yeah. So I think the last time Lamar beat us would have had to have been maybe Duck Hodges era. Like I'm thinking it might have been Duck Hodges versus RG3. I actually remember that game too, just because I remember every Ravens game, all of them, because that's just the game I love the most. Now, in terms of like matching up with the Ravens or matching up with the AFC North, it was kind of your question.
I mean, just as far as like how do you feel like right now? Who is kind of like the cream of the crop, I guess, so to speak, of the AFC North? Who's the team right now that you want to look at and say, this is the team to beat in the AFC North? Who's kind of the class act of the AFC North in a winning standpoint, not necessarily like the organizational standpoint?
Yeah, and like, so one thing that's great about the AFC North, Trent, and I think you can agree with this.
Sorry.
No, you're good, man. You're good. No, one thing about the AFC North that makes it very unique, not only very unique, but an elite division, is the one team that are like the team to beat, which is Baltimore. Let's be honest, it's Baltimore. They were in the AFC Championship last year. Pittsburgh's been mediocre for how many years now? They're the team to beat in general, but in terms of divisional games, it's Pittsburgh, and it's not close. Like, that's what makes it so great. You look at the last decade or so with the NFC North. Green Bay not only is the team to beat in the division, but they beat the shit out of the division itself. Dallas and Philly. It's just what makes the AFC North great is just that the Ravens are the class act, which I will say I agree with you there. But like, in terms of division versus division games, I don't think you can argue it's not Pittsburgh.
I think it's easy to say Ben probably really started to kind of tailor or kind of trail down in his career in that 2018 season, somewhere in that ballpark, 2018, 2019.
Yeah, the year we extended him was the year of his decline. So yeah, yeah.
So, starting from 2018 to 2023, Baltimore won the division 3 times. We've only won it once. Honestly, Cincinnati's won it more than we have. They've won it twice. So, it's interesting. I think that's part of what makes this matchup so intriguing is that we have won 7 of the last 8. But if you look at the AFC North as a whole, Baltimore has been the team winning it lately more so than we have. So just, I don't know. None.
They have won it since the Houston Oilers existed, my friend.
Yes. So let me ask you this, because again, this is kind of like you being a little bit of a younger guy and me having a little bit of age on you. Who comes to mind first for you when you think about this rivalry? Who are some of the players? It doesn't have to be one player, but like, who are some of the players that comes to mind to you when you think about the Ravens and the Steelers?
Yeah, I mean, I actually love that question. The pessimistic side of me wants to say Justin Forsett, because when they swept us in 2014, the guy had absurd numbers against us. So he's already like top 5 least favorite players ever for me, even though he like had a 1-year prime. I would say honestly that comes to mind Antonio Brown, just because the amount of absurd plays he's made in his career, or he did make. I mean, that's also my favorite all-time player. That was my GOAT, man. Le'Veon Bell had some fantastic games. TJ Watt, I mean, honestly, I know it's me being young, but for Baltimore's side, it's really not Lamar. It's not Justin Tucker even. It's like Flacco. I think of guys like, let's think here. Ray Lewis still, because I was old enough to see Ray Lewis play. It feels like, the games that Baltimore's actually beaten us, it's been the name Zach Orr. I know he's the Ravens DC now, but one game he had like an absurd game against us. I like to think of just the kind of obscure players that have either had some really good games or some incredible moments in general in this rivalry. But I feel like Flacco, Lamar, AB, Big Ben. Kenny Pickett, honestly, I mean, he never lost to Baltimore. I know it's crazy to say, but he's never lost to Baltimore. But yeah, that's definitely a loaded question. I guess I'd like to hear yours. Yeah, it's just such a loaded question.
Yeah, I think for me, it's just.
Oh, Alex Collins up there. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God, he had a great game. Man.
1 year, like 16 maybe.
Yes.
Something like that.
Absolutely went bananas.
Yeah.
For me, man, I think of some of the guys that were like the tone setters in this rivalry. So I think of the Troy Polamalu's. I think of, the James Harrisons. I think of, Hines Ward for us. I think of, obviously Ray Lewis and Ed Reed, Terrell Suggs, like the guys on the defensive side of the ball that really set the tone. And Hines, I mean, that dude was a linebacker playing wide receiver at times. Let's just be honest. Like, But I mean, I also think about, like you said, AB, like that stretch is still iconic when he stretches the ball across the goal line. He's wrapped up.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, some of that stuff, you think of Ben and Flacco kind of duking it out. I think of Tomlin and Harbaugh that's been going to battle over this same rivalry for, I think this is their 15th year head to head against each other.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
I think it's because Tomlin was there first, and then Harbaugh came, I think, a year or two after. So I think it's about their 15th roughly year competing against each other. So I don't know, man. I just thought it was kind of like a fun question before we really dive into the matchup coming on Sunday. So it's interesting though, because I liked your take on like the obscure guys. You know what I mean? Because there's some guys that it's really easy to forget about, but the Alex Collins call out, man, that ruined my night. Dang.
Yeah. No. Every time I think of like him and Justin Forsett, I cringe. But yeah, no. I'm looking here. This will be Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh's 36th time playing against or coaching against each other, which is unreal. So
That's
I mean,
crazy.
18 years. Is that sound? I mean, 18 years. That's got. Well, I guess playoffs.
Yeah,
So probably. I think we've played them twice in the playoffs. So probably 15, 16 years. You're probably right on. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. So let's dive into. Good Lord, he's still getting on you about the mic.
Is it so bad?
It is a little loud today. I don't know what it is.
I don't know either, man. I'm sorry. Is this better?
Yeah, I think it's good.
Okay.
So let's dive into the matchup that's coming up on Sunday. So we're at home, Acrisure Stadium. There's the confirmation. So Lamar, obviously, first of all, I think Lamar is playing out of his mind right now. He's had a phenomenal season, 2-time MVP. This looks like he's on pace for a third MVP right now.
Oh, he will. He's undisputed in my book.
But dude, 1-3 against the Steelers with limited production. So, all right, what are you looking with Lamar coming into this game? He's obviously the focal point for the Ravens. He's the one who drives the ship. He makes the offense go. What do you think about Lamar in this game?
I don't fear Lamar. I fear Derrick Henry more in this game. I'm going to be honest with you because it feels like, in the most recent, since Lamar, right? It doesn't really feel like they've ever had like an alpha running back kind of guy. Since Lamar kind of came in, Dobbins, Gus Edwards have been the majority of those games, right? It feels like Justice Hill. It feels like this year, Derrick Henry, he could be the difference maker in this game. Now, in terms of Lamar itself, the problem is with the Lamar games against the Steelers, as much as we do own him, it feels very inflated. Never again are we going to see a game where the Ravens have eight drops like that last game, like the game with Pickett last year versus the Ravens. I can't really think of that, like the Lamar games yet. I think the game that Mitch Trubisky did have to come in, that was Lamar. That probably was his only win. But it just feels like in terms of Ravens Steelers, it always feels as of recent that it's always them resting starters or Lamar's hurt or something like that. So I would say for me, it's definitely less of a Lamar fear. It's definitely more of a Derrick Henry fear. Because again, we've never played a Baltimore team with a running back like this. This guy's probably gonna be first ballot. Right? You could see that. So I don't know. I think that's definitely gonna be my biggest thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that not only is some of the Lamar stuff kind of maybe blown a little out of proportion. Now I think they really do have a great game plan against him. And we're going to probably run a lot of the similar things that we ran in Washington against him. Like you're going to see the Patrick Queen spy, or you're going to see him trying to run sideline to sideline to control Lamar a little bit. You're going to see the edges, kind of just trying to contain him and not let him get outside and create. Because that's when he gets crazy dangerous, is once he's out of the pocket and that run or pass option opens up. Like that's when the whole NFL just starts holding their breath, right? So that's going to be the interesting part, is how do you tackle Lamar with guys like TJ Watt and Nick Herbig, who want to go get the quarterback, but also make sure this guy doesn't break him, contain and just absolutely wreck your day. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And again, you're going to have another matchup here where our defense is going against another crazy high scoring offense. I mean, I really think this offense for the Ravens at times has looked unstoppable. And Derrick Henry's a big part of that. So I agree with you in 100% of what you're saying. And I think the weapons around Lamar as a whole are better this year. I've heard some people kind of still downplaying them. So how about what are your thoughts around Lamar's weapons with guys like Zay Flowers? I kind of feel like Isaiah Likely, when healthy, has kind of been more effective than Mark Andrews even. You got Deontay Johnson working his way into the fold. I know he's not had a ton of reps, a ton of playing time, still fitting into the offense. But like, how do you feel about the weapons around Lamar this time versus what we've seen in the past, even?
Yeah, I mean they're definitely so much better. Bateman's kind of finally somewhat come along as like the first round pick that he was. Um, yes, I say yes. If we could beat this team fully healthy, we'll finally get the respect in this rivalry. But yeah, I mean Deontay Johnson coming in, I could just feel a Deontay Johnson touchdown. I could just feel it already. I know it's coming. The guy will play probably like 12 snaps all game and probably score. I could just see it here. Zay Flowers came along as a really rock solid player. Mark Andrews, after super slow starts, even had a pretty good year, right? I mean that Ravens Bengals game was offensive cinema. That was like textbook offense on both sides of the ball. But it feels like with the Ravens, it's like every game it could be a different guy. Last week against the Bengals, speaking of which, it was, Tylan Wallace, right? One game, Mark Andrews had like 2-3 touchdowns against the Oakland or the Vegas Raiders. Zay Flowers has his fair share of games. Rashad Bateman has had a couple absurd games. And then Isaiah Likely, the first couple weeks of the year was going crazy. So it feels like any week it could be any given guy on that team, which is kind of scary in a sense. But it's also, I mean, yeah, that's really all there is to it. But, long story short, he definitely has a lot better weapons this year than he has previously.
I think so too. I mean, I like Zay Flowers. I think he's a solid player. I think he's a. It's interesting that they went out and got Deontay because I really see a lot of Deontay and Zay Flower having like very similar type of like those quick, shifty in and out routes. Like can get open. Zay's even had some drop issues at times, like early in his career. Like it's kind of interesting. I feel like there's a similar career arc with the two of those guys. But man, Isaiah Likely, he's obviously not the blocker that Mark Andrews is, but that dude's a real threat. Like especially down in the red zone, he's a receiving threat. He's got some speed to him. He's kind of like deceptively fast for a tight end. So I don't know. I feel like his weapons are a lot better this year than what we've seen in the past. And then Derrick Henry, man, that dude's he's as dominant this year as he's ever been in his career. I mean, is this dude ever going to get older? Like I feel like he's running like a rookie still. How do we stop Derrick Henry in this game? How do we control him?
However the hell we did it against the Titans back then. Straight up.
I'm not sure I understand this one.
To reflect what?
The Steelers
Change channel name to reflect the Steelers content. I don't really know.
I'm gonna have to follow up with him after this.
I would too. Yeah, I mean, however we did against Tennessee, I don't know exactly his career numbers against Tennessee. I mean, I can take a look here. I guess I'll take a look while you tell me. I mean, what do you think? What do you think's your best way? Because it doesn't seem like anybody's been able to, so I'd love to hear it.
No. I mean, he's averaging. I think right now I haven't pulled it up. I think he's averaging over 5 yards a carry right now. And
easily, yeah.
I think it was last I saw it was 5.2 or 5.4 yards a carry. I mean, with his running ability, Lamar's running ability, it's just crazy hard to stop this duo. And I think right now you almost have to sell out to stop the run a little bit and live with what goes on in the back end because those two are the two that you really have to. I just don't know how you shut down both of them for 4 quarters. And that's what no one else in the NFL has figured out a way to do either, quite honestly. So, I mean, they talked about, TJ talked about, getting a lot of hats to the ball. That is obviously what you're going to have to do. I think Landon Roberts has to be the guy this game.
Oh, he will. He will. He will.
He's the key for us to stopping Derrick Henry because he's so downhill. And even though Derrick's bigger, but he will go in there fearless in attack. And I think that's the kind of guy that you really need to see a lot of this game. I love Peyton Wilson, but I just don't think this is his game today or Sunday, I should say.
No.
So that's the only thing I can think is you're going to have to kind of, live with some of the balls that Lamar is going to beat you on downfield to make sure they don't stop you long term. And then when they get a chance to get off the field, get off the field. I mean, that's going to be it. You can't let them win third down. I mean, that's the only thing I could think is just try to get them off the field the best you can.
Yeah. Keep him behind the sticks for sure. Keep him behind the sticks. And yeah, dude, we think we stopped Derrick Henry, but in his career, 44 carries, 182 yards, 2 touchdowns in 3 games. That's 4.1 yards a carry. Because remember last year he wasn't playing when we played the Titans week 8,
Right.
7, something like that. But yeah, man, it's unreal. Even then, like he even came out and said that. Yeah, I agree. But yeah, even he came out and said toughest team he's had to play is the Steelers. Well, not really, because you're averaging over 4 yards a carry and 2 touchdowns in 3 games. Trent, I don't know, man. I don't know. I've never had an answer for Derrick Henry. Same thing as I've never had an answer for Saquon or Christian McCaffrey. So.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and it's going to be hard to see how we do this. So if you're the Steelers, would you change any of your game plan that we've had so far when we've gone against the Ravens? Is there anything that you're looking to change in this one? Do you kind of keep the status quo because it's worked in the past? What do you think about that? Because we've just said we think the Ravens have better weapons than what they've had in the past. So what adjustments would you make if you are?
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things, especially with if you consider a team like the Ravens for as dynamic as they are in the run game and as fast as they are in general. We've never had a group of guys this fast, right? The speed across the board everywhere is absurd on this team. The linebackers, this is the best linebacker we've had since James Ferrier and Larry Foote, probably, yeah. Right? It's unreal the talent and speed we have at this linebacker position, which definitely gives us the upper hand. We have a better secondary than we've ever played against the Ravens. I would argue a defensive line as well. In terms of actual personnel and matchup based, I don't worry. We do need Terrell Austin to really call a very similar game as he did last week against the Commanders. No question about it. I think that's the only thing I could say right now. It's going to be a lot of the linebackers. Patrick Queen's going to have to have another really good game. Atlanta Roberts the same. Deshaun Elliott the same. Interior of the offensive line, absolutely. Or the defensive line, excuse me. Keanu Benton, Larry Ogunjobi, and Cam Hayward, they all need to have a big game. TJ Watt needs to make plays. We cannot do this thing where he's invisible. Preston Smith and Nate Herbig going to have to step up. Or Nick Herbig, sorry. It's just one of those things where it's all the guys that we really need are really going to need to have good games, and we can't afford a bad game against this team by any of these guys.
Preston Smith is a guy that's interesting because he integrated into the defense very quickly in that.
And he had a rock solid game last week too.
Played really well, and I think if you're talking about trying to slow down Derrick Henry and stop the run, he's a guy that trade may pay very big dividends with him in this game because, that dude's not 260 or 270 pounds.
No way. He's listed as 265. Yeah. There's no way.
280, 285, I would say, based on how he looks. That's the kind of guy you're going to need. Because imagine right now, if it was Nick Herbig without Alex Highsmith trying to stop Derrick Henry, that's not what you want to see on the edge. Because I love Nick Herbig, but dude is more of a pass rush specialist right now than he is a run stuffer. Preston Smith is, on the other hand, he's still a very, very good run defender. And still gives you enough in the pass rush game to where you're comfortable playing him at any point in time throughout a game. So I think that trade is going to pay some huge dividends in this game if we can find a way to pull out a victory. We ran a lot more man in the secondary last week than we have done pretty much all season. maybe more than the last game than we ran all season combined, because we rarely ran a lot of man leading up to Washington. Would you run more man-to-man in this game against Baltimore? And would you lock Joey Porter up with Zay Flowers?
Damn, I didn't think of that. Yeah, I mean, it worked against Jaden Daniels, but Jaden Daniels is also a rookie. We have to put that into account. I think Tomlin said it perfectly. Be very careful comparing anybody to Lamar Jackson. He is one of one. He is incomparable, and that's clear. I mean, he's got my vote for his third MVP this year. He's got most of everybody's vote. You'd be an idiot not to. Now, one thing I would like to see a little bit more of, I know we did a lot of cover one, and I think a couple times we were in cover 0 last week. I would like to see 2-man, just because the fact that speed that they have. Do you trust Joey Porter Jr. to not get grabby? I don't know. Dante Jackson, as fast as he is, he's not great in man coverage. So it really makes it kind of difficult here. I feel like you really need to have some insurance in the back end with whether you want to put, frankly, I'd put KZ and Minka back there, have Elliott kind of play in the box. If he needs to guard Mark Andrews, tell him to have a field day, kid. That's honestly what I would do. I would go 2-man all game. Just so, it's not easy for guys like Flowers and Bateman, so they're not getting free releases. Put a linebacker, or hell, put whoever the hell you want on Mark Andrews. I'm very confident in Patrick Queen, very confident in Deshaun Elliott, and get pressure to him. That's all you need. He's a really good quarterback against pressure historically. I know he has really good numbers, but it always seems to be when Pittsburgh gives him a lot of pressure, he folds a little bit. I don't know what it is, but that's probably what I would do. So to answer your question, yes, I would run a little bit more man. Because we do historically run a lot more man against the Ravens than anybody else.
We do, because we play a lot different than pretty much every team in the NFL does against Baltimore, which is it's so wild. But
it's so wild.
What about this? Let me ask a follow-up to that. Corey Trice has a legitimate shot of playing in this game. He's questionable. There's a legit shot. If you run more man-to-man coverage, would you line Corey Trice up man-to-man and Dante Jackson?
Probably. I don't want.
I'm leaning toward, if he's fully healthy, I kind of lean toward, I think he's a better man corner than.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't play Trice any more than 40%, 35% even. But yeah, I would say in short down situations, in short, maybe obvious run situations would when you give Trice the looks, for sure. I just don't want the fate of this game going upon a glorified rookie who's played a game and a half. I don't like the thought of that. And frankly, as good as I think Trice can be and as freak athlete as he is, again, I think we need a lot of insurance with Flowers and Bateman because they can both run. They can both fucking run. And Deontay Johnson, you know how well he can beat coverage. We saw him for 6 years do it. I would, but to answer your question, I would say yes, but don't overdo it.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think I would feel better about him man up on Bateman than I do against Deontay Johnson. If he was man up on Deontay, I'd get real worried real quick.
I'd be upset,
Deontay can get separation against anybody.
Because if at least Deontay does get the separation, Dante Jackson does have the closing speed to kind of make up ground. So I agree.
Yeah, it was kind of an interesting thing that kind of popped in my head. So, so you mentioned too high. Is this strictly kind of like in a passing down situation, or would you run that primarily throughout the game? Because that's going to open a lot of their run game up, and that's going to.
Yeah, I'd say 2-man in obvious passing situations, and then probably maybe like a cover 1, cover 3 kind of look in the running situations. Because I agree, I think it's going to open a lot of things up. But 2-man is, ask any quarterback, that's by far the toughest coverage to throw against, especially with a guy like Lamar. And then again, it gives you the insurance in the back end so that those two speedy guys don't beat you deep. And then again, that is just obvious, like 3rd and 9, 3rd and 8, 4th and 7, whatever the hell you want to say it. 2nd and 20. Those would be the times I'd run 2-man. I wouldn't overdo it too much, but yeah, I mean, in obvious run situations, I mean, I'm making sure I got my guys in the box. I'm Minka on an island in the back playing center field. And then if you want to go cover 3 or cover 1, you kind of pick your poison based on what they're doing. I can imagine, knowing how Lamar has played against Pittsburgh, I can imagine they're going to try and get him going early with short gimmicky shit. So I'm thinking to start off, you're going to want to look at more of a cover 1. But, I mean, if they decide to go into cover 3 off the gate, I wouldn't be I wouldn't hate it.
Yeah, I knew what you meant. I was asking because I could see somebody looking back and be like, "Oh, what's this guy talking about running cover two like all game long against Derrick?"
Nah, I mean it's two
Yeah,
man, but yeah, I get you.
yeah. So what about this? So like, I really think Deshaun Elliott's done a pretty good job against tight ends so far this year, which is an area we struggled with all last year. Um, would you? I mean, I think I'd feel better about putting him on Mark Andrews and kind of
Yeah,
letting whoever else is in that nickel situation going against, even if they're in two tight sets. I think it's going to be interesting to see when they would pull Elena Roberts off the field. If you're going to, potentially be in a situation where you've got Beanie Bishop out there and you've got, you know, Elena Roberts, you're probably not going to ask Elena Roberts to cover Isaiah Likely. He's not going to run with Isaiah Likely, but like, how good do you feel about Deep Beanie covering Isaiah Likely? Like, do you think they would switch any of that? But I think you have to try to take away Andrews first between
yeah,
the
you
two
got to take
guys.
Andrews first for sure. I mean, he's done the majority of that team's damage in the past game since Lamar's came in the league. They came in together. So yeah, you're definitely taking away Andrews first. I don't see Isaiah Likely as a crazy route runner that is going to get absurd amount of separation against Beanie. It's kind of
Yeah.
just going to be a matter of whether the pressure can force errant throws for the most part. It's a tough matchup with those tight ends anyway. It's like matching up with Kelsey. It's never a fun matchup.
No, I do like both of them. So I'm going to bring this comment back up because he says Lamar will throw
Yeah,
ints, but so this is kind of one of the things that I put on our notes here is I think Minka needs to erase the middle of the field because that is typically where Lamar does a lot of his damage.
yeah. I mean,
And in between that like 10 to 15 yard range, he does a ton of damage there.
yeah. I mean, we play in a division with two of the most historically fantastic intermediate passers we've seen, and we play in a division with it because Burrow's fantastic intermediate as well. If we're ever needing a Minka game, it's this game. It's this game and against Cincy. Minka games need to happen in games like these for sure. Frankly, even a Sean Elliott game needs to happen in a game like this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree completely. Keep everything in front of you, which is what Minka's done a hell of a job doing for 5 years with us now. Shit, he's going on his 6th year with us. Oh my god, he's on his 6th year with us. Yeah, that's absurd.
He is.
My goat, man. But yeah, no, I would say I completely agree. Everything you said.
So do you feel like, and I know we're going to get to predictions here in a little bit, but like, do you feel like this offense is an offense that we can control? I mean, if you look at statistically, I think are they overall the number one offense right now? I think I had it pulled up earlier.
I think so.
I think they're number one as an overall off. Yes. So they're the number one overall offense in points for and yards. But their defense has not been very good. Turnovers, third. Fumbles lost 9, which Lamar can tend to put the ball on the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, he has throughout his career. Passing touchdowns 1, passing yards 3, interceptions 2. Like statistically, their offense is like top
Unreal
stuff right now. It's nuts. And throw Derrick Henry into that mix. Like, does this feel like a game where we have to generate turnovers to win this game?
I think winning the turnover battle comes with any win, especially within the division. Absolutely. I don't see it being like a super score fest like a lot of people think it might be. I don't see that. You know, I said it on Wednesday. I think these next few games at least are really just going to be whoever can get 20 plus and survive, right? I do seriously think that's what it's going to be. I think both teams are really going to try and like control the clock bigly. It could be ugly in that sense, but I think whichever team scores 25 will, be able to take it away. But yeah, turnovers are always huge. I see your comment here about Najee setting the tone. Now, we can get into that now because I've been thinking about it. I don't think it needs to be like a Najee set the tone game. I actually think you beat him in the air first this time, and then you get after Najee. You just fucking stick the dagger in him, right? Because Roquan Smith has had a terrible year in coverage. Trenton Simpson has been okay. Brandon Stevens had a fantastic year last year, has regressed mightily as a corner. Marlon Humphrey has been battling a little bit of health, but he has been pretty darn good. But again, we've seen what Pickens can do against a guy like that. I really do. And Kyle Hamilton's not going to be 100%. He's like max 70% if we're being honest here. Marcus Williams literally has been playing terrible even after their other free safety. Not Marcus Williams. Eddie Jackson, sorry, got benched. I mean, this is a prime time game. If you need a Russ coming out party for the division, you're welcome to Pittsburgh. I'd like to see 350 on Baltimore because I think it's very, very, very possible. So yeah, I mean, obviously turnovers need to be able to win us the game, but giving up turnovers on an offense like this, I think that's more important to conversate about. Giving the ball away to offenses like these is something we just cannot do under any circumstance.
I agree. I think that's going to be a big piece to it, and I think kind of what I said about Najee setting the tone. If we're going to flip this to the offensive side of the ball for a minute here, like you did, in my mind, I feel like his physicality against their defense needs to set the tone for our offense, and then let Russ. If we can, because I also put the offensive line really needs to play well because they have a really stout defensive front. I like their defensive line. If you're going to talk about anything on that defense that's been playing well all year, it's the defensive front, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, because you mentioned it, the linebackers haven't been great, the safeties haven't been great, the corners haven't been great. And we saw the Bengals run all over, the field, whether it was Jamar Chase or whoever. Like, they're just lighting up the scoreboard against this defense. So this defense can give up points, and this is not the Baltimore defense of what we're used to seeing by any means. But I think it starts up front, and if Najee can establish some physicality and kind of beat down that defensive front, I think that's going to set a tone for the remainder of the game because they have to slow them down a little bit. And as long as this offensive line can establish a bit of a run game, and I think as long as they can keep Russ upright, then you're going to see guys like Pickens and hopefully Mike Williams. I think, did you see? I did not see the injury report before we got on here. Was
I'll take a look.
Calvin Austin, was he back now or
I'm taking a look here.
Concussion protocol, because I did miss that. I think the biggest name that was on the injury report from what I saw was Jalen Warren, and obviously Alex Highsmith. So I think they were kind of, everybody else was questionable or playing from what I'd seen.
Yeah. So looking at game status here. Corey Trice is questionable. Warren's questionable. Highsmith's out. I mean, looking here, Van Jefferson, he had a little quad thing. He was full. Najee Harris was full. Dante full. Corey Trice full. Jalen Warren limited. I don't even see Calvin Austin here. They had three guys resting: Hayward, Pruitt, Sayamalo. Nick Herbig was full. Now, in terms of Baltimore's side, game status, Travis Jones is questionable and Arthur Maulet's out. Arthur Maulet forced a turnover last year when they played us. Yep. So
he did.
There is that. We don't have to sweat. No Steelers having a fucking legacy game. In terms of what they had today, Hamilton was full, rested Lamar. Kyle Hamilton was out with an illness, but he is full. Isaiah Likely was full. So, yeah, I mean, it's really...
It's going to be good on good in this game is what it's going to come down to. Outside of us missing Alex Highsmith, possibly Jalen Warren, it looks like this is going to be a good on good versus game. And I think if you're anybody from either side of the fan base, you're going to get a legit shot at who is the best team in the AFC North right now after this game, in my opinion. I'm a little concerned about the offensive front. I think if Broderick Jones has a really good game in this one against that front, I think that's going to go a long way for us. What do you think, Colin? Did we lose you? So while Colin's away, because I think Colin may have a connection issue right now. Some of the things that I'll kind of cover real quick as far as like the Steelers ranking side, it's going to be really interesting in how this thing plays out because defensively, we went over the offensive numbers for the Baltimore Ravens. So defensively, points for, we're second still after that game last week. We are currently 8th in yards given up. So we heard Baltimore's first in total yards. We are 8th in yards given up. Turnovers were 6th. Fumbles lost 7th. First down 4th. We're doing a great job there. Passing yards has not been tremendous for us. We're actually a little under the top half of the league there at 19, but we are 5 in touchdowns and interceptions. So we're 5th in both of those categories. So it's really interesting, and we're really shutting down the run really well so far. We are 4th in attempts, yards. So obviously we're doing a great job there. And then our offense, probably something that's a lot of shocking for people, is we're actually 12th right now in points for. So it's quite remarkable that we've made it here, where we are currently at 12th in points for, 18th in yards. I think that's something that would shock a lot of people. So, Colin, I lost you there for a minute, buddy.
Sorry, no, we had a power outage. It's raining cats and dogs here, so yeah, that's my bad, man. We literally everything just went off for a quick minute and then just went back up. I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me. But yes, I'm sorry, I missed you. What was that?
That's okay. So I started to once we lost you, I was pitching a question to you about our offensive line holding up, and specifically maybe a Broderick Jones thing, and then I started kind of covering like some of the overall statistical stuff. But how do you think a game from Broderick Jones? We saw him have his best game last week. Can something like that carry over against this Baltimore team?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, again, as good as their front has been, I think their edge rushers aren't. From an on-paper standpoint, their edge rushers are definitely one of the weaker links on that defense. I know that says a lot because it's they don't really have much weak links, but
yeah,
I don't think Kyle Van Noy and Odafe Owe are all that impressive. Adisa Isaac is a guy that they drafted at Penn State, if not this year, last year in the second round, to be an edge rusher. He has not been what they expected by any means. I think it's a really good week for Broderick Jones and Dan Moore to have good weeks. It's a good week for them to have good weeks, straight up. The same as last week. They both were perfectly fine in pass blocking. Only one of them was good in run blocking. Broderick Jones, best game as a Steeler by far. Zach Frazier last week, we were concerned, but it's like it was his first week back from an injury. We're not going to go crazy. I think in general, I right now, Mason McCormick, he's going to have the Justin Madubuike, and I talked very highly about him before the season, and I still will. I think he's one of the more fantastic interior / kind of can play both, like a Chris Jones-esque. One of those kind of defensive linemen in this league that's actually fantastic at what he does and earned every penny he's gotten. It's definitely going to be a must-have good week for McCormick especially, but yeah, McCormick and Jones, that entire right side needs to hold their own.
Yeah, who actually is going to be an interesting matchup for me. He's kind of like a really unsung guy, but yeah, I thought he had a pretty nice game against us last year. Travis Jones, played well for them and plugging up that middle. And when we talk about Najee setting a tone, and Zach Frazier, this will be his second game back from injury. Travis Jones is a big dude, man. He is
questionable though.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see if he plays. And actually, I thought Michael Pierce, who's the actual other nose tackle, I thought he played pretty well against us too. So,
and he's old, yeah.
Yeah, but I thought he had a good game against Slasher. So it'll be kind of interesting to see. I just really feel like if we set the tone in beating that defensive line, it's going to go a long way to helping us in achieving a large part of what we're trying to do, and that's win the game, right? Was there anything else that you kind of wanted to dive into in the matchup, any individual things? How do you feel about GP in this one? I mean, I think George is a guy, like you said, we've seen him against Marlon Humphrey in the past. Marlon cannot run stride for stride with George Pickens. Like, there's no way.
George. If George were to be an alpha dog, I know we say it every week, but if he were to be an alpha, it's definitely this week. That secondary's been bad, dude. I say it time and time again. This secondary's been bad. Calvin Austin, we need a big game. Pat Freiermuth, I was talking to my buddy about this, and he's like, dude, Colin, I can just smell from across the state. I can just smell a Pat Freiermuth fucking tight end one kind of game, and I like that. I love it. I don't know why. I mean, like I said, Roquan Smith has not been very good covering. I'd love to see. I'm gonna pull up PFF in a few minutes here while you get onto something. But yeah, no, I'm gonna pull up PFF and see these exact like grades and whatnot because I am very curious. They have been bad. I watched Ravens all 22 against the Bengals. Granted, Bengals have a fantastic passing offense. They have a great quarterback.
Yeah.
Gesicki played well, Jamar Chase, etc., etc. But dude, I don't see any of those guys that have been very good covering, and I'd like to see. I could see a Darnell big time game, something like that. Feels like a lot of times in this rivalry, these big physical, inhumane fucking sized people are just having good games. The Alex Collins, a monster sized running back. Dennis Pitta had his numerous games. He was like 6'7" tight end who just had length out of the wazoo. A fucking longer arms than most tackles, but anyway, yeah, no, it's just it feels like I could see a big time game from one of them for sure.
Can I say this? I hope. Just because, listen, I don't know. I just saw so much trash talked about this Mike Williams trade. Can I just say I hope this dude gets like 50 yards receiving and another touchdown and just hits another big play.
I'd kill for it.
I just want to see it happen. But I agree with you. Listen, if Darnell Washington gets another one of these balls and he runs over either Roquan or Trenton Simpson or something, like that place is going to be rocking because like in a game like this fan base wants to see physical football. You expect physical football, and I know we're going to get to predictions in a minute, but I agree with you. I don't think this thing's going to be as high scoring as people are anticipating. I mean, I'm seeing what was the over under 42.5 or something like that in this game.
I am not sure. I'm going to take a look on ESPN here.
I think I saw Nick Faribault post something earlier, and I think I caught a glimpse of it. I thought it was like 42, 48, something like that.
Over under 47.5.
47.5. Like, if you'd ever said that like 2 or 3 years ago, like Baltimore, Pittsburgh over under 47.5, I don't know if you'd have a single person betting the over except for the idiot who has money to blow and just says, if I put $100 on this, I'm winning $1 million. Like,
yeah, no, dude. Like, you looked at the last few matchups, they're absurd scores, like 16-13, 19-14, all those type. What was last year? 17-14 was the first one?
Yeah.
And then the second one was like, I think also 17-14, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, the Najee Harris game. Yeah, it's the way the offenses have been and that's why I just cannot see like a score fest, man. I cannot see like a 25-23 game or something. I just cannot see that.
People are taking what they've seen so far this season, and I'm sorry, but like when you get to Baltimore Pittsburgh rivalry week, you take all of the statistics, you wrap them up in a ball, like what we were just talking about, all these great things, and you throw that thing right in the trash can. Because it's all thrown out the window. This is a game of just who wants it more and like who wants to be physical, who wants to beat up on the other team. Like it never ends up being this like pass happy, up and down. I mean, even when Ben was there, like it was never this like high scoring game.
Yeah, the one game that I can actually think of, Steelers Ravens, it was actually like pretty. It was either 17 or 18. AB had like an absurd game. He had like 12 catches for 175 yards. And it was like a 38-37 final score that we won. I can't remember what year it was. But for anybody watching, that is a fantastic highlight to watch, the highlights of that game. Just everything was so clean. It was just all score fest. But yeah, I mean, that's the last time I can think of that. But ever since then, it's all been straight downhill. I mean, 38-37, that's what, 75 total points scored? We haven't seen anything over 60 in like, what, 5-6 years?
No.
Yeah.
No.
75 points scored, and then we might not have seen anything over 50. I'm so serious when I say that.
It's been a long time. These games don't end up being high scoring games.
Never.
It can be crystal clear weather, nice 65 degrees.
In a dome. Yeah.
It does not matter. These teams just do not score against each other. So, well, we're getting down to that time. It's about time to do a little predictions. Did you have anything you wanted to cover on your PFF side?
No. Okay. It wasn't as bad as I thought. But his Raekwon's overall grade is 57.6. So.
Okay, that's cool. I wanted to give you a chance because I know you were pulling that up there. So do you want to do us the honors and giving us your prediction on this game? You know the deal, winners. What's the score? If you want to throw anything else out there, go ahead and throw it out there.
Yeah, so I said it on Wednesday, and I'm going to stick with it. The next few games for Pittsburgh and whichever team Pittsburgh plays, it's going to be like score 21 and survive. I'm going to go 21-16 Ravens here. I don't see the first time around playing Baltimore with a Derrick Henry-esque weapon on their team. Again, I could just sniff a Deontay score from miles away, days away. I don't see us really knowing how to handle that the first time we play them. So I am going to go 21-16. I think I do assume that it'll be like either Pat Freiermuth has both, or it'll be like a Freiermuth and a Najee. I could see Pickens having a good game relatively, but it just feels like one of those games where, how many times do you think does Russ really play the Ravens? Number one, number two. I don't know if I can really see a Pittsburgh defense knowing how to defend a Lamar and Derrick Henry at the same time.
Yeah, listen, I think we've talked about this a couple weeks back. I just don't feel good about this game. This Ravens offense is the real deal. And while I don't believe in their defense, it's not going to take anything for us to get down in this game and try to fight our way back. If we can do what Cincinnati did, I do think our defense is better equipped to hold a lead. I'm just not sold on the offensive line being able to jump on this team quick. We've not been good at coming out the gates quick. We've been a better second half team. And by the second half, I feel like the Ravens might have this thing in hand. So I'm not expecting a blowout, but they really just, once they get a lead, they can hold on to it. So I'm going Ravens winning this game as well, unfortunately. And I've kind of gone back and forth on this score, but I think it's going to end up being something like a 24-23 game. I think it's going to be close, and I think it's going to come down to a last possession. But I do think the Baltimore Ravens are going to pull this thing out.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, one thing I did have that I kind of wondered here, because it's my favorite game of the year. I want to know your 3 X factors from both teams regarding like the 3 key players. It could be obscure, it could be not obscure. Just give me your 3 like X factors for each team. I'm kind of curious.
I think defensively, I think it's Madubuike for the Ravens.
I agree.
I think Kyle Hamilton wrecking shop down in the box. I think he's a guy. He's why I don't think Pat Freiermuth is going to have a good game. If he's healthy, that dude is just a really, really good football player. Like Kyle Hamilton a lot. I will say this: if you ever find a one-on matchup between him and Calvin Austin, you send Calvin Austin as far downfield as that dude can run, because there ain't no way Kyle Hamilton can run with that dude. He's not fast. But I do like Kyle Hamilton a lot as a player. Offensively, it's all about Lamar. Derrick Henry is going to be the guy who he is, and that's why I'm not going to consider him an X factor. He's just always a factor. But Lamar, is he going to be back to the Lamar who plays against Pittsburgh and is 1-3 and hasn't had crazy stats, or is he going to be the MVP Lamar? And that's going to be the X factor, I think, for Baltimore. So if you get MVP Lamar, I don't know what we can do to stop both of those guys. But definitely, Madubuike, Kyle Hamilton, and Lamar are going to be the big differences in this game. And I think 2 defensive guys primarily, because they need the defense to do something to win, right? So offensively for Pittsburgh, it's kind of a cheat, but honestly, I think it's got to be the offensive line. The offensive line has to play really well for us in order to beat this team. I think Russell Wilson needs to be every bit of the guy that we saw against the Jets and the Giants. He didn't have a great game against Washington. He got touchdowns across, but if that guy shows up in Baltimore, it's going to be a long day. And then I think defensively, I mentioned it earlier, and I honestly believe this. I think this is Elandon Roberts 100%. If he can help slow down Derrick Henry, and if he can put the ball into Lamar's hands and get them into 3rd and longs, that's how we have a chance. So that's my 3. How about you?
Yeah, I'll start with Baltimore first as well. I'm going to start with Brandon Stevens. I just think, he's had such a brutal year. It's going to come down to, can he guard Pittsburgh's wide receiver 2, or if it's Pickens, how well does he do? If he gets burned all day, we're just going to attack him all day, because that's what teams have done all year. So that's definitely my first one for them. I didn't even have to think twice. And yeah, I'm with you on Madubuike. I think Madubuike either he wrecks the game himself on McCormick and Frazier and Sam Allo, wherever he's at, even Broderick Jones. Either he could wreck the game himself or he won't. He's got to earn his money. And I'll tell you, this would be a perfect game for him to earn his money, so we need to be able to contain him especially. And then on offense, I am going to go with Mark Andrews again. I feel like Mark Andrews always has a really nice game against us. It's one of those things where, Deshaun Elliott, he came out on Marlon Humphrey's podcast, kind of said what he needed to say, him and Patty Q. It's going to be a game for Mark Andrews. Those are the two most likely guys who will be locked onto him this game. I don't see Tomlin saying, yeah, let's put Beanie Bishop on Mark Andrews a lot. I could see Tomlin's going to sit there and say, Deshaun, Patrick, figure it out. Someone go take care of him. So that's definitely 100% the biggest impact on Baltimore that I could see. And unfortunately, Trent, I can see Mark Andrews having a fantastic game. With that, oh yeah. It's written on the walls, man. And then for Pittsburgh, I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to go definitely Mason McCormick and Zach Frazier in general. Specifically specifically from center to right tackle, from Frazier, McCormick, and Broderick Jones. Can you guys show your pros or what? I mean, we haven't seen a good McCormick game, especially in the run blocking aspect. He had like a 27.6 run blocking grade last game. Egregious. He's been okay in pass blocking, though, nonetheless. Broderick Jones has his first good game of the year. He's another fucking great. He's a prime game, Broderick, to earn your starting spot next year. How can you play against Baltimore? And then, so that's my first one. My second one, Russell Wilson. I mean, like I had said, how many times he played Baltimore? He's been in the league 12 years. Maybe played him maybe 3 times, maybe. Yeah, I mean, we could look into that for sure, but it's going to be the thing on Russell Wilson. Like, Baltimore's definitely going to do some gimmicky stuff. They're definitely going to try and make you bail the pocket. They're going to make you throw the ball away because he loves to do it. They're going to make him try to put the ball on the ground because he also loves to do that. So he's definitely my other X factor. And then again, I mean, George Pickens. I'll say it again. If you want to be an alpha dog, this is the game to do it. He obviously had the game-winning touchdown last year against Baltimore, or the icing on the cake kind of touchdown against Baltimore last year. Didn't really do anything at all in the Week 18 game, honestly. Pretty much the passing game was carried by the running backs and Deontay Johnson's huge catch and run on the Bang 8 route. I'd like to see him have a big game against against Marlon Humphrey, or even the Ravens in general. We haven't really seen him have one yet, so this would definitely be a good game to do it. So, yeah. I'm looking at Russell Wilson. 3 career games against the Ravens.
Yep, you're right on there.
Yep. 15, 19, and 22. So, career-wise, 241 yards a game, 63% completion, 7.6 yard per attempt, so he's definitely gotten him deep.
Yes.
And then 6 touchdowns, 1 pick in his career. That's pretty solid. I mean, it's definitely carried by one game in 2015, which was the year Baltimore went like 3-13. He had 5 touchdowns, no picks, 9.1 yards per attempt. Kind of an absurd game for sure. But yeah, no, that's his numbers against Baltimore. I was curious, and I'm sure you were as well. So figured I'd be the one to look into that.
Yeah, I think it. I really want to see Mike Williams play a lot in this game. I don't know if he's ready, but I'll tell you what. I don't want to see another go route or deep shot to Van Jefferson, Scotty Miller. Like, you need to have a guy who can track the ball in the air. Mike Williams is as good as anybody at doing that, and I think that's if you have he and George Pickens a lot on the outside together, I think that's going to go a long way to helping us in this one. But this is definitely, since Tyson's fighting tonight, let's give a Tyson quote here. This is definitely the game where everybody has a game plan until you get hit in the mouth. This is the game where that is.
Yeah, I mean, really. Yeah.
So, yeah, man. Should be interesting. I completely hope our predictions are wrong.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, we hope it's 38-13 us. Yeah.
Yes. That Baltimore offense is scary, dude. So
there's something.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I'll tell you this: if we hold down this offense, I don't want to hear another word about how this defense isn't as good as what they should be, and they're the highest paid defense in the league. If you hold down
Yeah.
this Baltimore offense, everybody better quiet real quick down about this
Yeah.
this defense and who
Yeah.
they are.
Well, and definitely one thing we don't mention here, and it's obviously way too early to mention it, but losing to Baltimore is definitely a chip on the Steelers' shoulder. That would be, especially for a short week going into Cleveland, short week, et cetera, it's going to be a physical game. It would be kind of nice to come off of a loss and beat the snot out of Cleveland in every fashion of the game. I will say that for one, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely like to beat Baltimore to get that out of the way.
Yeah, I do. I think this game has a lot of major implications as far as the AFC North. So this could be a tone setter on who wins the AFC.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yes.
I mean, I felt like we're kind of in a ramp up period between the bye week and then you get Washington. You get a win against a good Washington team. I know they just got beat by the Eagles, but like
that's a good team though.
They're still a good team. And then if you beat Baltimore, man, that's going to go a long way for the rest of the season. So. Anyway, buddy, I know we'll be chatting quite a bit during that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Who do you got your predictions for tonight, man?
Between Tyson and Paul? I think the old man's going to get him, dude.
That's really, yeah, I'm sorry. I just think Paul looks really good. He looks huge, man. I think it'll be tough for Tyson, man. He's in his 50s, so.
He's in his 50s, but listen, man, that dude's a scary guy.
He is terrifying, yeah.
He is a scary.
For sure, yes.
Have you ever watched some of his clips back when he
was of course, yes.
Oh, dude, he was like just brutal. I mean, listen, his left hook is still quick. At 55 years old, he's still got that left hook, and that is a good night waiting to happen for anybody. I don't care.
Yeah,
55, man. He's
yeah.
It should be fun to watch, though, man. I'll say that because it's been a long time since we've seen a Tyson fight. This is his first fight since like 2005. Is that right?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it'll be a lot of fun. So you think Paul's going to take it?
Yeah.
Knockout or decision?
I think he might knock him out. I think it's tough to see.
Okay.
It'd be tough to see the old man go more than a few rounds. So we'll see.
He said he trains like 8 rounds a day.
Yeah, I understand. Listen,
that should be interesting.
I should have prefaced by telling you I don't really know much about boxing or MMA in general anyway, so it's definitely something there. But yeah, I don't know. I could see Paul winning. Honestly, I don't really care. I don't have money on it, so it's one of those cool things where whatever happens, I'll wake up the same tomorrow morning. So.
Yeah, I mean, neither one of these dudes are going to be fighting for a title belt anytime soon. 55-year-old and a YouTube star. So.
YouTuber, yeah, no,
Yeah. All right, buddy. Well, I appreciate you coming on again.
Yeah.
And listen, if Tyson knocks him out, you better bet your ass you're getting a message later on tonight.
No, yeah, I'll be waiting for you. I'll be waiting for you.
All right, buddy. I appreciate you coming on. Everybody knows the deal. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. So you know when to get on here and give your comments. We'll put them up there and try to answer questions as we tried to tonight. And I'm definitely going to follow up with that dude about the whole YouTube algorithm.
Yeah, Steeler Aussie. Hit me up on Twitter. It's Philsberg on X. So.
All right, buddy. Appreciate it. You have a good evening.
All right, Trent. Have a good one, buddy. Thanks again.
See ya.